Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. So, Sean K donated a while back and asked me to play, quote, the best blue-red deck in Legacy, end quote. Now, I think pretty much universally, everyone will say that the best blue-red deck in Legacy is some variant of the blue-red Delver shell. And when I say Delver here, that gets big old air quotes right now, because some of the blue-red Delver decks aren't even playing Delver anymore, which is kind of crazy given how iconic that card has been in Legacy for, what, like the past decade now? And so today we're going to be playing the deck that got third place at the Legacy Pit Open. A couple days ago, I posted on Twitter and I was like, hey, what's the best blue-red deck in Legacy? Sell me on your 75 and I'll play it. And then one of my judge friends posted this list and said, hey, I think you'll like this. So let's do a quick rundown of what's going on here. So traditionally, the blue-red Delver shell has a big old pile of wastelands, right? Because that mana denial portion is so important to you, just taking advantage of like days and the tempo you create by playing a 1-drop. Well, this deck is instead opting to run a few more lands than normal and run Urza's Saga. So we have no Delvers here because we have to fit in a couple of silver bullets like Retrofitter Foundry and Soul Guide Lantern for our Urza Saga to find. But this is basically like Modern Horizons 2, the deck, right? So if we take a look at the cards that have been printed recently, we have basically the entire threat suite. This is new too, right? Yeah, this is new too. So of the cards in this deck, counting the Urza's Saga, I think that's 21 of these cards have been, printed in about the past year, which is pretty nuts for a Legacy deck. So this deck is essentially looking to play the highest quantity of recently printed cards that are relatively powerful. If you are one of the people who types comments, I can hear it now. WotC ruined the format. Now all we have to do is play the new good cards. Rabble, 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 rabble. Yeah, I got you. I understand. We're gonna move past that. All right. So essentially, we are trying to play on a lot of the strengths of like the traditional blue-red Delver shell by having great aggressive starts with Dragon Rage Channeler, or starts that snowball out of control, sort of in the same way that Deathrite Shaman's started using Ragavan. But we can also play a slower game. And while turboing out a Murktide Regent can be a super cool way to just cheese a win, you also can just like get an Urza Saga and go Construct, Retrofitter Foundry, and that can be pretty damning against a lot of decks too. And while singular spot removal spells like Prismatic Ending might be great against something like a Dragon Rage Channeler or a Ragavan, when you're producing multiple bodies off Urza Saga and getting card advantage that way, things get a little bit more dicey. As far as the sideboard goes here, there's a pretty strong assortment of mostly singleton targets. I do want to draw attention to two specifically. The 1 of Pithing Needle is really closer to a 5 of, because you can go and fetch this off of Urza Saga. And Court of Cunning is a really interesting card that I've tried to make work in a couple of different Legacy decks, and these courts have always been like right there in terms of playability. So I'm happy to see that around, and I would love to try this one out. Yeah, let's see how a league with a pile of really, really powerful Magic cards go. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for Legacy, Modern, and Vintage content 4 days a week. If you're a regular, throw me a like before we get started. Videos haven't been doing super well recently. I'm doing fine, don't worry. But, a few likes goes a long way. And come back tomorrow for some sweet zoo action. Yeah, let's just hop into this. So, are we supposed to keep the hand that has Ragavan and Daze? I have some reservations, but this card combination might do all right. Okay. Could be playing against lands. Knowing the opponent, we also could be playing against something like 4-color Loam. Could also, I guess, technically be playing against the new Landfall Zoo deck that's been running around. But like right now I have like Daze plus Ragavan plus Force of Will. This is a pretty disgusting start. I will probably pitch Expressive Iteration to Fort the Will right now. Alright, Maze of Ith. Not super jazzed about that. We can accrue some value, though. Am I comfortable just playing Urza Saga here? Or do I want to try to ponder into another land? I think I'm comfortable playing Urza Saga. Because that can work towards Pithing Needle, even if other things just go wrong. Alright, so Urza Saga. And we'll play this Soul Guide Lantern, mostly just to do this. Yeah, that can go on top. Alright. Get that Ragavan in there. Oh. Rats. They figured it out. Okay. And not a lot I can do about that. Gonna get a lot less value off this Urza Saga than I'd like. Guess the next question is, like, can I turn this into a large creature this turn? Probably not. Let's fetch. I think I will just go for the non-basic again. I'll ponder. One deeper here. I'll put that in the graveyard. Now I'll have 3 types in my graveyard. How are these cards? The other Urza Saga isn't particularly great here. The next land drops are fine. Brainstorm's kind of whatever. I don't really have a great setup for an Expressive Iteration. And I think I'm just going to shuffle this. Like, everything there is just fine. And I will get my 1 point of damage in. Okay, so this is an enchantment land, so that does synergize with Dragon Rage Channeler here. Alright. This colorless mana's not doing me a ton. I'll just float my mana with it. 3 to sack this. I hope my opponent's dead. Oh no, the Pithing Needle's not in the main deck. Pithing Needle's in the sideboard. Alright. Guess I don't really... Well, I guess I can do this. Don't think it's a big deal to give up that mana in this turn cycle. Send him. I assume it's still the Ragavan that gets mazed. Yep, looks like that's the case. That's a crop rotation. I am going to junk that. I guess I pitched the Daze. Keep the Expressive Iteration. Could just as easily go the other way, though, honestly. I really just want to draw a Wasteland, take out one of my opponent's lands. Ponder can help me find a Wasteland. I'm fine with topping that. Okay, do I want to get rid of these targets, or do I want to get rid of the Life Emblem? I probably want to get rid of these targets. Every turn of time is just so much health here. Ooh, Urza Saga. Alright. I'm gonna look for a Wasteland. I still just do want to get rid of this Blast Zone. Yep, top it. Actually, maybe it's better to get rid of Taiga. I probably don't have to make that decision immediately. Hit with all of these. Now. Oh. That's actually kind of neat. Do I want this? Is that worth a treasure? I don't think I want that. So do I want to take my opponent off of colors, or do I want to make it so that they can't really Blast Zone me ever? Could also just take the Urza Saga away. That just gets loaned back. Let's take out this Taiga. Okay. And my opponent's done with me. Alright, this can kill a Merit Lodge. I definitely want this and this. I don't know that I want much of this other stuff. The Alpine Moon seems fine. How much does this mill for? 10 cards is a lot of cards. My opponent is very unlikely to have many threats. I think I dig that. Oh wow, I just noticed that this list has no graveyard hate. Other than, like, the main deck, Soul Guide Lantern. That's super interesting. I wish I would have realized that earlier, so I could have brought that up in the deck tech. Alright, Unholy Heat is definitely going to go. I don't know that I really love my Dazes on the draw. My opponent will already be able to play out a lot of the cards that are most important. I also don't have Force of Negation. I think I'm going to board out one Urza Saga since I'm boarding in a Wasteland. I kind of want to board out one of my artifacts. I kind of want to board out some Dazes. Let's go down on these on the draw. This hand is fine. It has a lot of mana, which I like. I think a Ragavan start is probably stronger than a Dragon Rage Channeler start here, and I kind of wish that I had a cantrip to get things going, but I have a reasonable mix of lands and spells here. I don't think this goes back under any circumstances. Yep. Yep. So there's a shit ton of ways to play this turn cycle. This isn't symmetrical, right? Not. I could use Alpine Moon to defend my lands from Wasteland. I could Wasteland my opponent's Taiga and hope they don't have another green source. But if they go green source Life from the Loam, that's really bad. Or I could just simply, like, ignore what they have going on and play out Dragon Rage Channeler. I have a lot of land. I kind of like trying to go for the freebie here. It means that my days isn't on in this turn cycle, though. So if my opponent goes like land, Valakut Exploration, that's not the best for me. Sick. Do I have a basic mountain? Yes, I do have a basic mountain. So I will go ahead and fetch that. And I will just play out the Dragon Rage Channeler immediately. I just want to get this threat going. This means that I don't get to daze in this turn cycle. But then next turn I can Alpine. I don't even know that I'll Alpine Moon, actually. Alright. You have obtained colored mana. And alright. Dream is dead. Okay. Oof. That swung back around real quick. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and Alpine Moon. Yield to this. Alright, we have prompted my opponent to fetch. Sure. Punishing Fire. Sure. I'm gonna shut off Wasteland. I don't super need this land drop. Just send that to Graveyard. Wasteland. Alright, now that I'm lacking in a threat, I'll just play an Urza Saga. And get that going. Notably, a Force of Vigor would be rough. Also notable is that my daze is not really doing a lot. Okay. There's some things on the other side of the battlefield here that I don't like. Like, there's a Maze of Ith in the graveyard for my first threat. There's a Bojuka Bog, so that Murktide region is harder to cast. Although, admittedly, that's very hard to cast right now. Yep, okay. So, opponent sort of preemptively making Murktide harder to cast. Yep. Oh, Pithing Needle. That is good for me. On a number of different levels, honestly. Because in addition to just being like a Pithing Needle that will stop the Maze of Ith or whatever from doing work. Oh man, don't have the Force of Vigor. Okay. So in addition to just being something that can shut off like a Maze of Ith or whatever, it also will be an artifact that boosts my count for Urza Saga. Yep. So now opponent is going to get their own Urza Sagas. And honestly, there's a world where I just like activate mine twice and then Pithing Needle theirs if I draw a land. Yep, that is occurring. I will activate mine at the end step. This is unfortunately a 1/1 right now. And unfortunately, since my opponent played Spheres of Resistance, I can't both activate this and then play my Pithing Needle this turn. But I think I need this other body. Alright, so these are 2/2s. I'll turn them into 3/3s now. Well, potentially. Okay, my opponent does not have... My opponent does not currently have a Horizon Canopy in play, so I actually could catch these from Graveyard here. Rather than, like, get something that lets me make my stuff bigger. Wow, this is very awkward. I think I will do that. Let's try to junk the Life from the Loam. That's not getting through Maze of Ith. I guess this is just my turn, and I can hold up Fetch and play Daze. So I guess, alright, there's a Dark Depths. That's all there was to it, which is great. I guess pre-combat, I will cast this Pithing Needle. I could try to ponder for a land, though. Specifically, if I hit, like, an Urza's Saga, that would be pretty dope. Yeah, let's do that. Wasteland's pretty good too. Yep, yep. Alright, I'll take the Wasteland. The Sphere is metaphorically killing me. I don't have a 4/4. Yeah, I probably need to kill the Urza Saga. I guess I go to the end step. Yeah. So I will now attempt this, and we'll see if it works. Okay. You have like a crop rotation too? No. Okay. Good. Not currently playing to beat crop rotation. Yeah. Shit. So now I need to like find a submerge. This probably needs to be me cracking to just get another look at a card. I would not crack this if not for the immediacy of my need and the Sphere of Resistance just taking me off some outs. Right, so I'll draw a card. This does unfortunately put these back into the range of Punishing Fire. Spells cost 1 more to cast. So I can still cast a Murktide Regent. It will be a pitiful Murktide Regent, but it will be a Murktide Regent. So if I cast this Murktide Regent, it will be in chump block mode. Or I can try to find my one of Submerge. Can I do both? Of 6 cards in graveyard? Yes, I can do both. I cast this Ponder first, so I can Ponder and look for Submerge. Those cards are not Submerge. That card is also not Submerge. Alright, there's a Murktide. It is a very sad Murktide, but it is a Murktide. Oof. Yeah. Can't daze because of the Sphere, so that means that I am just dead here. I'll just confirm that my opponent does make this. Yep, okay. Unseed. We were relatively close, but the Sphere just kind of make it so that I couldn't really cast my stuff effectively, and my hand was a little awkward to start with. On the play, I can take more dazes in if I want. Knowing that my opponent has Spheres, some of my things like Expressive Iterations become a bit worse. Not like Daze is an ultimate champion here, though. I also could technically go down some Lightning Bolts, but I like the reach. A lot of times lands stabilizes on board. You can't get through with your creatures. I'll take the Dazes on the play. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct or not. This is unimpressive, but fine. I'm unsure whether or not I want to try to fetch basics. Do I have double island? I do have double island. In which case, I will start off that way. I want to go the route where I play Court of Cunning. I really need to make sure that I do not get wastelanded. I haven't seen Rashadan Port yet, I believe. All right. Yep. Okay. Starting early. Are we dashing that? Yeah, I think I'm dashing that. And dash it this turn and then play Court and Ragavan next turn. But things get a little weird if my opponent plays a Sphere. I'll dash. Alright, monkey friend. Let's do it. Get in for 3. Alright, I exiled a Dark Depths. And Ragavan can just go ahead and hop back to my hand now. I'm most scared of just a very quick Dark Depths here. Ooh. Merge is sick. Merge is very, very, very good. Alright. I'll go ahead and fetch. Get that other island. 3, play a Court of Cunning. I'll probably surveil just about anything into the graveyard here. Yeah, that can... My hand's fine. That can go into the graveyard. Alright, I am the Monarch. Now the next question is, do I want to play out Ragavan or hold up Lightning Bolt? I think I want to hold up Lightning Bolt. The attack doesn't really do me any good here. My opponent just mazes it. Yield to that. Yeah, you can make that. I'll just go ahead and Lightning Bolt this now before any sorts of shenanigans happen. I can go into the graveyard. At this point, I'm working towards fueling Murktide Regent. See kind of how my opponent plays out this turn. Okay. They're going with another critter. I can submerge this if I need to. Okay. Are they gonna Pithing Needle Wasteland? Yes. Which will in turn show off my opponent's Wasteland, although that's not super relevant right now. Okay, hold on. I have to actually read this. Any number of players each mill 2 cards. If you're the monarch, it's 10 cards instead. So I could technically mill myself here. I think I'll just choose my opponent, though. Well, yeah, sure. Fuck it. Me too. Sending the Soul Guide Lantern into the graveyard. That's sort of interesting. Okay, so my opponent just Maze of Iths this. So I can dash in Ragavan. This is only when it deals combat damage to a player. I think I can just kind of chill here. I'll just cast this. Cast this. 1, 2, 3 instants. There's a sorcery. I will probably put an instant back in easier. And then that Dragon Rage Channeler. And I guess I don't even really need to be thinking about the card type all that much here. Because I just like milled over like both enchantment and artifact. Oh, and there's another Murktide Regent, lol. Alright, so I've given my opponent access to Life from the Loam. I think is, while not good for me, is probably fine. I have a Submerge. So I just keep the Submerge for a Merit Lodge and just hold the ground and intend on milling my opponent out. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I think I run this back and mill myself again. There's a world where I'm not supposed to mill them, and I'm supposed to just try to kill them in the air. But I think they have access to 2 different Maze of Iths. So let's run this plan back. A Pithing Needle. That is mighty interesting. Tabernacle. Not too worried about that currently. I just Pithing Needle, Maze of Ith, and Murktide my opponent twice. That seems pretty dope. Let's do that. The old Dragon Rage Channeler. This is a crop rotation. That's fine. I will let my opponent make the Merit Lodge and then submerge it. Yep. So as expected, they're going to go for making it here. I just let that happen. All right, I'll do my Surveil thing. I do not need a Daze. All right, it's on a Maze of Ith. Submerge the Merit Lodge. Retrofitter Foundry can go to my graveyard. Now, I will cast a Murktide Regent. And how this works is when cards leave your graveyard, things get bigger. So, these trigger the Murktide again. And just looking at the math here, I think I would have had lethal or very, very, very close to lethal in this turn cycle here. GG's. I think there were a lot of ways for me to play that game. But you probably had other lines that you wanted to take. I won't go into it. Let's just go to the next round. All right, my opponent has revealed a Yorion, so we're probably playing against Death and Taxes. I'm going to go ahead and go Volcanic Island Ragavan to start here. I am unlikely to get in very many Ragavan hits over the course of this game, so if I want to get my value out of this creature, I want to try to do it early before things like Caracas and blockers get involved. Absolutely not. And again, this Ragavan Daze thing on the play is kind of gross. All right. Guess let's take our hit. See what we get from our opponent. A Flicker Wisp. We're not casting that one this turn. Let's go land. Flicker Wisp misses you, I guess. It sure does. And I think a Ponder is worth it here. I would like to find some land. I can just go into graveyard. This is great. I will absolutely draw this Daze here. Already made my land drop due to the previous days. Alright, Mother of Runes. We're gonna say nope to that. Mostly because we can. I will take this. Well, I can put this fetch land in a graveyard. I'll just put this in the graveyard for fuel, because I know there's another land below it. Alright. Crash in here. Alright. Ephemerate. Spicy. Okay. So I could remove 1, 2, 3 from graveyard. This is probably worth doing still. We'll just casually floop a 6/6 into play. And if my opponent casts something, I'll fucking force a will it. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. I am the baddie now. Okay. What do we want here? These Toper Orbs are pretty hot. Probably want a Braid. Probably want Pithing Needle. Null Rod is fine. The issue is, like, if they just go and get, like, a Cauldron or the Batter's Call the first time, the Null Rod really doesn't do a ton there. Also not crazy to just play more lands. My Dazes are a little rough on the draw, but my opponent has so many 2-drops that I really just want to counter. Especially Stoneforge Mystic, that I probably just keep the Daze. We're not going to try to mill my opponent out with Court of Cunning. I'm just going to throw that out there now as well. I also probably still want this. My opponent's going to have a handful of fatter creatures since they're playing the Yorion version that this isn't just going to outright kill. I am not sure how to sideboard here. Like, the Soul Guide Lantern can go. Feel pretty comfortable about that. I want to keep my threats. My Ragavans are worse. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to just board them out and plan on just killing my opponent with a Murktide Regent. Maybe I do that. See how that feels, and then like trim like 1 Daze or an Expressive Iteration. Maybe I keep all the Expressive Iterations if I'm going this threat light. Trim a Daze. And then I probably bring the Ragavans back on the play. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Is this hand keepable? It's a weird one. This Torpor Orb is really good. I think this hand is a bit sketch. I'm on the draw. I'm going to get another look at a land that way. Just things get a little wild if I get wastelanded. Okay. I think I need to play the Urza Saga on turn 2, which means playing this land on turn 1, and it's so bad for me if this gets wastelanded. But I have Unholy Heat for non-Thalia 2-drops. Fuck. Let's get Brainstorm locked. I didn't mean for it to actually happen. Alright. Good shit. It doesn't really matter what I put back here. I am dead this game. I want to wait on this Urza Saga. This is feel bad. That is feel worse. Now I can't just get this Torpor Orb into play easily, and I already know that I'm discarding once naturally. I'm just going to discard an Expressive Iteration. Those are going to be so hard to play. Alright, looks like my opponent also has an awful lot of nothing going on. I hate to just, like, discard a sideboard card like that is Ecstatic Caster here. My opponent says, this is peak Legacy. Alright. This is where the scary shit can start to happen. I'm gonna just let that one resolve. Like, I can counter that if I want, but I'm not going to have the opportunity to counter very many cards. So, like, if I draw a Daze, that's not a live card currently. Whereas if I draw any red source, then I just answer this Flicker Wisp and I save the Force of Will for something scarier. That gets another Flicker Wisp or something worse. I think that qualifies as the something scarier. I'm going to keep the Murktide Regent here because I am going to need it to stabilize the board if I ever get something into play. Yeah. Okay, at this point I think I feel comfortable just conceding. I'm not going to beat through this here. Alright, so now it's the question of, do I want Ragavans on the play? I think I do, given like how game 1 spiraled. And I can also be thinking about this other Daze on the play. That does mean it, like, I have so many cards that I want. Everything's good. Maybe I have to go down on Expressive Iteration some amount. Just assume that they beat me in the long game, so don't play towards that. Play 3 Dazes. Alright. How does this look? Yeah. I mean, I'll be keeping this hand. Do I? No, I don't even have the option to fetch Mountain. I could fetch Island and just play Ponder, but I think it's correct to play my threat first. That means Valk into Dragon Rage Channeler. This is another hand that's just kind of susceptible to Wasteland. Okay. Alright. Playing the Null Rod out super proactively is kind of weird. I guess I'll do it. Because if I go into combat, I might lose this Surveil. I will Surveil that into the graveyard. Alright, so opponent's at 19. They can do some scary stuff here, but most of the scary stuff that they can do, I can counter with these removal spells. Bolt the Dome? Bolt the Dome. I do not want this land. Alright. I'm still making my land drops. But I don't feel great about where I'm at. Maybe I should have taken the fetch just so I can 100% of the time play a Ponder. Things become awkward if I get wastelanded. And it had to be in that turn cycle, because then after that I would have Pithing Needled. Play around that situation. Yeah. Gross. Alright, opponent's down to 14, but like I have basically sinkholed myself twice. Yeah, alright, my opponent's got one of those. Theirs will be much better than mine. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna float that mana. And I think I Pithing Needle their Urza Saga. Since Retrofitter Foundry on both sides is already turned off by my Null Rod. This is just incredibly awkward though. As soon as I get one more card type into the graveyard, like, I'm golden. But it's very hard for me to cast this Ponder to put the final card into the graveyard. I also don't know if my opponent actually has access to white-white yet. Yeah. Weird match. Okay, I get ported down again. Okay. Fetch land is fantastic. So I'll get another Volcanic Island, and now it's a question of, like, do I want to play a second Dragon Range Channeler? Or do I just want to play a Ponder and hit for 3? I think I just want to play the second one of these. I'm not 100% sure, though. It's not like I'm going to get double Rashad and ported next turn. Okay, so I guess I should attack in first, because there is, like, a very off chance that my opponent could play a flash creature like Containment Priest. I'll take my 1, put my opponent to 12, and then play the second threat. So now my opponent will lose this land, which is a boon for me, and probably pick up something that does nothing, yeah. I do technically have this Daze that I can cast on something, although, like, with my opponent having 4 mana right now, I'm not expecting to catch something in this turn cycle. 5 mana, even. Okay, that was a Yorion to hand, which leaves me with all sorts of fucking questions about what's going on over there. Just infinite lands. Okay, my opponent did not port me. Alright. Ponder. Now these are going to become big bigs. Ooh, I can dash here. My opponent for 8, get extra mana that can be held up on my opponent's turn no matter what. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know, like a Force of Will is just so incredibly good here. I'll bottom that. Oh my god. How does he do it? Okay, so one of these goes down now. That's fine, I'll just let that happen. Arctide. Arctide's really good. I have not played my land drop yet. So I get to choose between Murktide and Force of Will. How good is this Murktide right now? Actually, it would be only 2. I mean, it'd be a 5/5. It might be better to take the Force of Will this turn. I could also take Ragavan now and dash in. This is a weird spot where I wish I would have fetched. I'll take the Force of Will this turn, Murktide next turn. That's a tough one. I could also ponder, grab the Murktide, and then fetch. Alright, so I hit my opponent for 3. I'm probably going to ponder and pitch this Daze the vast majority of the time. This got kind of tough. Casting the Ponder now puts another card into the graveyard for Murktide. Ooh, a Braid too. Sure. Let's go Ragavan, a Braid, Murktide, shuffle, no. Alright, there's an Abrade on top of my library if I need it. Not that I expect to need it, but it is there for me. And Murktide is now a very respectable size. Good enough to counter. This might be good enough to counter. Allow my opponent to put in a 1-drop if they flicker Null Rod. Oh, that's fine. You can have that. Yep, that's fine. I'll just batch away this Abrade that's on top. And junk this Flicker Wisp here before my opponent has access to more mana. Ooh. That's a nuisance. I don't really want to Force a Will this. But if I don't, then my opponent gets to Flicker Wisp twice. I'm gonna remove the counters from my Murktide, which otherwise might just, like, kill my opponent. I think I'm gonna go ahead and smell the blood in the water here. I'll junk this, I guess, because I'm not gonna have another card to pair with it before my opponent dies. New Dragon Rage Channeler? Yeah, don't mind if I do. That can stay on top. Jesus. Alright. I mean, I guess my opponent had to have something. They were just kind of, like, sitting all game without things to do. So I guess with this Ephemerate, rather, I want to kill this Flicker Wisp so that my Murktide Regent just kills my opponent next turn. Well, basically kills my opponent next turn. And then I have another follow-up threat afterwards. The Flicker Wisp taking out my land is super relevant because I was planning on doing both of these in one turn cycle. Alright. Junk the things out of my graveyard. I have an 8/8. Ephemerate can't blink my creature. Now my opponent, if they have another land, can go, like, land Yorion, start blinking Yorion. Fucking stop. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, because, like, now that trades with a Flicker Wisp. I'll be looking for a removal spell. Another Murktide would be fine. Oh, that's quite good. The Rishadan Port makes it kind of a pain in the butt again, though. So now, do I attack in with the Murktide and trade with the Flicker Wisp? Or do it let my opponent, like, do Yorion Blink stuff? I'd probably trade. Especially since my opponent can't, like, play Yorion and Rishadan Port me down. Alright. Alright, so it's all on the table. Opponent has 2 cards, one of which is Yorion. And they have, like, Yorion plus Caracas, which is obnoxious. Oh, fuck. Pithing Needle, Urza Saga. Fuck. And Null Rod for Retrofitter Foundry, too. Well, well, well. Isn't the consequences of my own actions. Did I mill? Is my Abrade gone? No, my Abrade is back in my deck. Okay. Actually super interesting, if nothing else. Yeah. So now my opponent will blink out one of my threats for my turn cycle. Probably the Dragon Rage Channeler. Actually, there's an argument for both. If I play another Murktide, things get weird. Alright, I don't mind this bolt. The real question is, like, do I just take out the Flicker Wisp now? Well, nothing weird can possibly happen. No, there's still just fucking Ephemerate to worry about. I can also just, like, save this and try to go upstairs with it later. Ah. That's not great, and if I Lightning Bolt the Yorion... Yeah. Sucks. We'll just get bounced with Caracas and reused. Alright. I'm just gonna let that happen. I don't think I want to spill the beans about this Lightning Bolt, because there's a lot of worlds where, like, I win this game by sending 6 damage directly to the dome. Uh-huh. I think we're done. I don't think I'm gonna beat that. Sure, I'll take that. I'm about to get double Rishadan ported. I can bolt this Stoneforge Mystic. I can bolt this Flicker Wisp. I can bolt my opponent's face. I think if I win this turn. Because long term, my opponent just plays one more land and plays Cauldron Complete, even if I remove Stoneforge. If I remove Flicker Wisp, I get double ported. I can't actually play a Murktide Regent to create lethal. So the world in which I win is the world in which I Lightning Bolt face, and there's another Lightning Bolt on top of my library. I think. And also be a removal spell for Flicker Wisp that gets that out of the way, if my opponent does not have another removal spell. But a lot of ifs here. Yep. Oh, no. Okay, so my opponent left up white mana, meaning that they have some other answer to that. Yeah, so I float a mana, and embarrassingly, I go and grab something that can't be activated. I'll hold this. And hold back this Murktide Regent. I am worried about a removal spell here. Nope. These matches have been an absolute grind. Sort of interestingly, I kind of like lost this one on 2 different fronts to my own cards. Null Red stops me from activating this. The Pithing Needle stopped me from getting constructs. Alright, so we'll see how many things my opponent actually attacks with here. Okay. That's fine. I think I have to leave this back to give myself more outs to just actually kill my opponent. I am dead next turn. Yep. That will not do it. GG's. Well played by my opponent. Things just didn't quite come together for us. Alright. Let's see. This is round 3 here. I've kept my opening hand. I have Force of Will plus Daze. I have a Ragavan on the play. I'm playing against a blue deck where Ragavan is particularly good. Life is grand. We will be starting with Ragavan over Dragon Rage Channeler. I just like that better in the dark. Against blue decks, Ragavan is like both more likely to get in, and you're more likely to hit cards that you can actually just cast with the Ragavan. I mean, against any deck, given enough resources, you can cast the cards that are in their deck, but like when your islands are going to cast the appropriate spells, it makes things easier. Alright. So I'm starting to be thinking about Doomsday after seeing Polluted Delta and a basic non-snow island. But I'm basically always thinking about Doomsday right now. Deck's very good and quite popular, even if I can't play it worth a damn, but we'll work on that part. Yeah, we're definitely smelling like combo. Okay. So now my Ragavan's going to get to crash in, and we might get some extra information about what is going to be good and not good based on what I flip here. Flooded Strand. Okay, so no bonus information. I think I am just fine with playing a Dragon Rage Channeler. So right now I have multiple counter spells available. I'll probably just daze by returning an island to my hand rather than hard casting it. Ooh, so this is probably show and tell. Yep. Oh, maybe sneak attack. Do I want a lightning bolt first? There's like spell pierce type cards to think about. I think the answer is no. I think I'm actually going to force and pitch daze, which is a little weird, but I want to be able to brainstorm into both blue card and force of will. I can go in my graveyard. I want to be able to brainstorm into blue card plus force of will if that's something that I need to do. I think I will. Mana a limiting factor? Mana's not really a limiting factor. Let's get a little deeper here. Ooh. This will put a sorcery into the graveyard. I think I like doing this. And then hopefully I can hit a land drop with it. Alright, so let's surveil this. Yeah, that can stay. Well, I could just... Actually, if I put this into the graveyard, I hit for more damage. I'll put it into the graveyard. I've never actually resolved an expressive iteration before. We'll see if I mess this up. It looks like first one will be hand, second one will be bottom of library, third one will be exile. One of them into your hand. Murktide? No, I'll put the Ponder into my hand. I have a lot of power already. I put one into hand, one on the bottom of library, and one to exile. I'll just make my land drop like this. Now this is up to 5 damage a turn. Crash on in. And I'll be looking for another Force of Will. Okay, my opponent is playing Daze. That's good to know. Let's ponder first. We could have a long discussion about these cantrips. That can go into the graveyard. I do not want any of that. Murktide. How many instants or sorceries are in here? 3? That'll be lethal next turn. Am I willing to go for that? Oh no, it won't be lethal next turn. Because I'll shrink this. But I can probably regrow this as long as I leave an artifact in there. No, I'll cast this next turn. I'm gonna start looking for a Force of Will a little harder. That can go into graveyard. Daze is not great. I've already made my land drop. Put this down. Hide a Murktide on top. Play a new Dragon Rage Channeler. Oh, excuse me. I've got 11 damage showing for next turn. But I'm somewhat locked. Oh, yeah? I can daze this. I get some surveils. I'll take that. And then I can take these cards off of the top of my library. We'll send the Murktide away. We'll send the island that we know is there away. So my opponent can pay for this, and that's fine, but hopefully I'm keeping them off of, like, cantrip plus activate. Okay, a Ragavan. Well, we're gonna crash in. Hit my opponent for 8. On, like, cantrip. Polluted Delta. Not good. I'll play a land, and my opponent is not quite in lightning bolt range. However, I will beat an Emrakul. I am at 19 life. I have enough. Oh, wow, we really lucked out here. No red mana, or maybe no creature, or both. All right, so what do we have for some sort of sneak and show matchup? This can kill show and tells, or sorry, that can kill sneak attacks. This can kill show and tells. Narset's fine. Wasteland, Pithing Needle have some amount of impact on the game, but are both kind of whatever. My opponent got a lot of basics. I think I will swap an Urza Saga for a Wasteland. And this is the first world problem thing I think I've ever said here, but not sure exactly what to cut because my cards are so good. I don't need Unholy Heat. You can go. I can cut Soul Guide Lantern for sure. And then, like, basically all the rest of the cards that are in my deck are, like, fine to good. Maybe I cut Retrofitter Foundry because I'd rather find Pithing Needle most of the time. And then I only have to cut 2 quote-unquote real cards, which I guess will be Lightning Bolts. It's also possible that I should, like, not board in this Narset on the draw because it's slow. Ragavan's dumb. Never mind. That's a 2-drop sometimes. Yeah, this hand is fine. It has a threat. It has lands. It has counterspells. Awkwardly, my days will not actually be live at the beginning of this game. Alright, that's no shuffle with the Ponder. Okay. So I'll go land Dragon Rage Channeler to get my threat in play and get started here. But I have some awkwardness here in terms of these lands since I didn't have a Volk. My daze is not on immediately. My opponent will probably play around Wasteland for most or all of the game. I still think it's correct to have these because, like, sniping a City of Traders, for example, can be a very big game. It looks like no fetch on the Brainstorm, and that's just going to be the end of their turn here. Oh, just hang out in the end of combat for a second there. Ragavan. Are we dashing? I'm not sure that I want to continuously commit this mana because I have other things that I really want to be doing with my mana. And I'd like to play around my opponent's days. Yeah, I'm just going to attack in for 1 here. Play out the Ragavan and play out my island so I can daze. I should have played the island prior to the attack, but I wouldn't actually, like, daze something that went to kill this since I have another threat afterwards. Plus, with this sequencing, it does, like, make it look like I have something like a Flusterstorm or a Spell Pierce or something that my opponent might want to potentially play around. Don't like that. Force Pitch Brainstorm, then Wasteland my opponent and dazes a live counterspell again. I think I'm good with that. Alright, I get to Surveil. That's a land. That can go into my graveyard. Your Ponder is fine. Yeah, I really need to hit some cantrips from my opponent's deck. I'm a little low on gas. Go ahead and crash in here. I don't think I'm going to try to, like, Lightning Bolt my opponent now and, like, try to surveil 2 different card types into the graveyard. I don't think that's going to work out. Alright, we just hit Misty. So I'll snap off and kill this. Okay. I assume this is just a shuffle for the sake of a shuffle. I'm not expecting Stifle. Just a daze target. This is probably a pretty good daze. And hardcast that. I would like to draw this next turn, I think. At the same time, I don't mind it hitting the graveyard. No, I'm gonna send it to graveyard for the sake of trying to grow this Dragon Rage Channeler and put a clock on my opponent. Like, Expressive Iteration is quite nice, just as a draw effect. Super punished. Alright. I'll put in my Volcanic Island. Brand is scary. I'm gonna Lightning Bolt my opponent here. I assume just resolves. Do I want this? Slash... I probably don't want this. But it's awkward, because this is an enchantment land. So if I put this into the graveyard, then this has to attack. But my way to beat the Grizzlebrand is to create a very large Murktide Regent. But because making this attack would give my opponent 7 more life, I think that just always loses me the game, so I think I have to keep that there. So much for my desire to sort of like select for something better. Urza Saga being on top was a little awkward there. Alright. That kills me this turn a good portion of the time. The Grizzlebrand being in play also is pretty damning, if we're being real. Just the 7/7 lifelinker alone is rough. I am not doing that much damage right now, and I don't have too much time to draw a Murktide. I guess there's a world where my opponent like draws 7 here, whiffs, and then I kill them by getting another card type into the graveyard. Okay. Oh, more friends. Okay. We're not gonna beat that. I'll take my draw step to make sure there's not some miracle thing in here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this could be a 7/7. This could trade with Grizzlebrand. Emrakul still obliterates too many of my permanents. Okay. Yep, that's fine. So maybe I wasn't supposed to daze that Brainstorm. It seemed like a fine opportunity to try to stick my opponent with the cards that were in their hand while they were low on resources. I don't regret doing it. Doesn't mean it was right, but I don't regret doing it. I think I kind of like how things are. Like, I don't think I want Court of Cunning. I don't think I'm gonna mill my opponent out or anything with their Emrakul deck. That's mulligan. This will be a keep. I'll throw back 1 land. Alright, so let's fetch, grab Volcanic Island, so that we represent a daze, and just play Dragon Rage Channeler. I will probably not be playing an Expressive Iteration immediately. It starts to become more attractive on about turn 3, but I really would like to leave up the Pyroblast for most of the later turns of this match, if possible. Alright, I think this is going to be land and attack for 1. And I'll go for an end of turn Brainstorm. Like, if I can hold up Pyroblast while also playing around Daze, that's kind of cool. Smells like Defense Grid, though. Nope. Okay. I'll Brainstorm here, then. Onder can just go to the graveyard to fuel my Dragon Rage Channeler. These are cards. Land? Land Expressive Iteration? I'm currently viewing Expressive Iteration as something that I probably pitched to Force of Will. I think I'm going to put back land, and then redraw 1 land. Are we fighting over this? I don't think I'm fighting over that. I'll just play a Murktide that's bigger. Alright. So I'll go ahead and fetch. Puts 5 cards into graveyard for Murktide. I will still be able to play around like Daze and Pyroblast and stuff. By no means is it the world's like thickest Murktide Regent, but it's hopefully good enough. And now I have double counter spells to protect it. I will probably not cast other spells this game. No. Gotta force that so my other spells are live. Oh. This is probably just a cantrip. Yep, that's fine. Let's see. So I haven't... did I shuffle with Delta? Yeah, I shuffled with Delta, so that mountain is not on top of my library anymore. I mean, I guess, you know, there's a 1 in 48 chance that it's on top of my library still, but, you know, unlikely. Okay, this will be fine later and may allow me to kill my opponent a turn before it's necessary. But I only have 3, 4, 5 towards it right now. Oh, so we're only clocking for 5. Okay. You have a show and tell. Seems like it. Attempt to answer that. Okay, it worked. Great. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't Murktide yet. I'll be able to Murktide next turn. Guess let's start doing some digging. I would really like to just like hard draw a Force of Will. I think I'm going to draw Brainstorm. Then on my opponent's turn, I can fetch. This is fine. Because if I fetch, I get 3 new looks at other cards. And then I will have lethal next turn, because I can play the second Murktide next turn and kill my opponent. Alright, we'll attempt to find an answer here. They have to have Lotus Petal plus Fatty to actually kill me here. Okay. Pyroblast does not do what I am looking for it to do. I can keep filling my graveyard, though. I'll go 1 deeper. This just makes the Murktides bigger and bigger in case like a Grizzlebrand gets involved. Alright. Alright, your sneak attack resolves. Do you have the pedal? No. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this grows the other Murktide, allowing me to get lethal this turn. Alright, good stuff. 2 and 1 now. Okay, my opening hand here lacks a threat. But I have a Murktide in hand and 3 counterspells. I think this is a keep on the draw. I don't have, like, Delver heuristics down. I am not traditionally a Delver player. Yes? Don't make me regret this. But after my opponent mulliganed, I want to try and take multiple cards here. We're gonna counter that, I think. If my opponent has multiple Entombs and they get me, so be it. Okay, yeah, so I got an extra card for waiting. And now I know that I want counterspells or a threat with this. That'll be a shuffle. Thick. So my opponent might be a mono black never mind. I was about to say it's kind of weird for them to open up on snow-covered swamp like that. Okay. So I can probably play a Murktide next turn. Do you have a fatty in hand? Unclear. I think I'm gonna let that resolve. If they do have a fatty in hand. Okay. This Daze is looking hot. I'm gonna fetch. Grab Volcanic Island. I'm gonna Lightning Bolt my opponent here. And I'll Daze this and just return that Volcanic Island back to hand. Okay. Now, do I play the big threat or the smaller threat that allows me to keep up Force of Will? That's tough. This is just bigger than Chancellor, right? This is just bigger than Chancellor? Yeah, let's just go now. I think I'm gonna fetch so I can keep my sorcery in the graveyard. Or the Dragon Rage Channeler that follows later. No, that makes this bigger. I'm a liar. I shouldn't have fetched. Okay, that's fine. Like, the Entomb and Faithless Looting cards aren't great now. It's the reanimation spells that matter. That thing is terrifying. Never mind, it's not terrifying anymore. Alright, so I hit for 7. I have Force available for my opponent's next meaningful spell, which is this one. And I get to Surveil here. Almost no matter what, will go into the graveyard. 7, 8, 9, 10. Never mind. I can go on top. Good stuff. Cast with Dash. And send everybody in. Okay, so you remember earlier when I mentioned that like we basically don't have Graveyard Hate? This is now very relevant. My sideboard is not great for this matchup. Like, I'll play a Wasteland, probably. Pithing Needle has some text for a Grizzlebrand. Yeah. I think this is one of those times where the person who built this deck was looking to dodge those decks and just, like, play against, like, the traditional portion of the meta. This is not great for me. I'm gonna swap Unholy Heat for Wasteland. And that'll probably be it. Like, I could Pithing Needle for Grizzlebrand, but I just, like, I'd be cutting a Lightning Bolt and maybe getting my opponent dead and having another answer to a Grief is just better than that. Yeah, we're super light for this matchup. Ragavan plus Daze, is that good enough on the draw? Like, do I need a Force? Ragavan's pretty stupid. It's mana acceleration. It's already kind of a 6 or maybe even a 5 card hand. Like, the Expressive Iteration is very slow. The Retrofitter Foundry is not a card that I actually want to draw. I think I'm willing to mulligan once to look for a force, and then I would keep a hand of this power level a second time. Yep, we'll keep this one. Don't feel great about it. Yeah, alright. You got the turn 1? Okay. Well, that probably gets the creature into the graveyard. Oh, 2 creatures into the graveyard. Now I probably have to represent Force of Will and not actually play anything. I might end up just like firing off this brain. Yikes. Firing off this brainstorm to crack the Chancellor thing if I'm not just stone cold out of it here. Oh, that's really good for me. Yes, you can do that. Well, it appears really good on the surface, but it also could just be my opponent like trying to find a grief or something that wow, they just entombed for a Faithless Looting. I'm going to pitch a card here to clear the Chancellor trigger. I don't know if that's correct, but there's a lot of lines where if I have 2 mana, I can like Expressive Iteration and start looking for Force of Will if I draw a blue card. That's okay. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and double creature now. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and cast these rather than dash in with the Ragavan. Because I would just be like using the same mana. And next turn I'd like to like do an Expressive Iteration. Yep, this is fine. My opponent is doing their digging. But hopefully my Expressive Iteration will, or this will give me what I need. I think I'm going to go ahead and cast the Expressive Iteration pre-combat. There's a world where I end up doing well here. Top! 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 Alright, put one of them into your hand. Force of Will. One of them on the bottom of your library. I think Brainstorm. And then Lightning Bolt can go to exile. We'll play Scalding Tarn. Crack this. Grab a Valk. Straight up Lightning Bolt you right now. Creature? Is this going to the graveyard so I get more damage right now? Would be my 4th type. Yes, I think so. Alright. Opponent's at 11. Ooh, I have found a Lotus Petal. I will cast that. I will Surveil. I will top that Wasteland. I'll happily draw that next turn. Already made my land drop this turn. So double Reanimation spell will be the thing that really fucks me up here. Wonder if they have a Reanimate and they're thinking about dying to a Lightning Bolt. Alright, that is Grief pitching Dark Ritual. Do I cast the Brainstorm? I think so. Alright, so I am now going to surveil this land into my graveyard. I think there's a good chance that my opponent will have a Reanimation spell, so I want other things here. Oh, Daze is interesting. I could force this and keep Daze in my hand. But Daze doesn't actually do anything in this turn cycle. I'll let the Grief resolve. So they will probably take my Force of Will, and then I can have a Brainstorm for another look at something like a Lightning Bolt. Okay. Yeah, so it is a Reanimate. So my opponent will die to a Lightning Bolt. Yeah, I should have put the Ragavan on top for if I Brainstorm, I can put that into the graveyard. I'm gonna junk this and try to get deeper. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, I wonder if I just lost this game for not putting the Ragavan on the top and getting 1 card deeper. I guess I am now dazing this and putting one of these into my graveyard. This Dragon Rage Channeler also just has to attack. Fuck! This is lights out for me. So this creature has to attack. My opponent goes up to 10. I get junked for 7. My opponent can draw 7 if they want. I'm gonna go ahead and concede here. Without graveyard hate, this is rough. Let's take a look a couple cards down. We would not have found anything even with better sequencing. All right, is this bad enough that I want to play a straight up 5 mana bounce your idiot? I don't think I do. Okay, this one's an auto mulligan. This is shields down turn 1 most of the time. This is not a good hand. I think of an average 5-card hand is better than this. Okay, this is definitely better. I'm going to keep this. Soul Guide Lantern is just straight up in my hand to start with, which makes the Urza Saga a little awkward. It's still fine. Maybe it isn't fine. Maybe I just throw that back. Lead on Ragavan on turn 1. Dash Ragavan on turn 2, playing the Urza Saga. Lightning Bolt is going back. And then it's like Urza Saga or 1 Dragon Rage Channeler. Also, my opponent began with 7 cards, so I probably need to play the Soul Guide Lantern on turn 1. Alright. I'll keep the land so I can dash Ragavan on turn 2. I'm not going to try to extract absolute maximum value from Soul Guide Lantern. I want this to be my safety net. And then I can just use Ragavan to do Ragavan things. Alright. Okay. I assume this is just going to be me getting, like, either griefed or discarded a bunch. Yep. It's fine. It's obviously good because it's going to take this Ragavan. But, like, I have my Graveyard Hate in play. Urza Saga can be a win condition, assuming I get 1 more mana. If a 3-2 with Menace kills me, something went horribly wrong. Although, honestly, my opponent reanimating my Ragavan would be a major pain in my ass. Because, like, this exiles opponent's graveyards. This is not straight up a Dormouse Crypt. Opponent's tanking on the decision. The Ragavan's less scary than the Dragon Rage Channeler for them in many ways, because Ragavan just trades with grief, whereas Dragon Rage Channeler can fly and gain me incremental advantage over time. Yeah, it is pretty interesting, like, what my opponent decides to take here. Because my opponent, if my opponent gets one of these, they're both very good for them. Like, Ragavan just does Ragavan stuff, and will get them cantrips from my deck and give them ramp. Whereas Dragon Rage Channeler can allow them to surveil and try to naturally just put a creature in the graveyard while they just cast other stuff, like discard. Alright, and after tanking, my opponent has taken the Dragon Rage Channeler. Alright. I'm just going to go ahead and play out this Urza Saga. No need to dash Ragavan since my opponent has a blocker. I will just go ahead and gladly cast this, because then it means that it's much more awkward for my opponent to actually want to attack in with grief. And then I'll just make constructs that are bigger than grief and start going to town. And yeah. This is the awkwardness of, like, this exiles opponent's graveyards. That resolves. And it is very not good for me that it does resolve, because it is now a 3/3. Although we might do some trickery at some point and turn it into a 1/1. Oh, my Ragavan can't attack through that yet, regardless. Murktide. I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively fetch so I don't get restrained by timing later if something weird happens. And I'll be passing the turn here. I feel like my opponent is currently advantaged. Okay. This could be an Entomb. Okay. Notably not a Badlands there. Alright. Nice value from my opponent there. Killing a Faithless Looting. Dark Blast. Oh, that's a nuisance. Alright. Fine. But I'm not a fan of this on a number of levels, because this also just means... What? Okay. So I was about to make a 1/1, and then I was about to make a 2/2, and then I was about to have a Retrofitter Foundry. That's not game over. And, like, if I played a Murktide Regent, it was going to be a 3/3. This match was not over. Well, okay, we wouldn't have drawn this one because I would have shuffled. Alright, we're going to take that, and we're now 3-1. Alright, for the final round, we have an awkward hand here that does not have red mana. We have 2 counter spells, but I think this one just needs to go back. This hand is fine. I'll probably bin 1 Force of Will here. And we're kind of hoping that Dragon Rage Channeler plus Brainstorm can get this hand into a better spot, because it's not bad now, but, like, the Murktide is not super castable currently. The Dragon Rage Channeler is not going to have too much food. I'm going to have 2 types, and then it gets a little tricky from there. So is this elves? Is this green-white depths? I'm going to go ahead and junk this and pitch my Murktide. I'm not ready for Murktide yet. I'm going to send that to the graveyard purely for the purpose of trying to grow this Dragon Rage Channeler. Awkward. I don't really want this card now. I'm going to main phase Brainstorm and just try to convert this into another card. That is enchantment and land in the graveyard. That can go to graveyard. Sick. Alright, I have built my own Delver and found a Ragavan. Oh, this is really good. I can keep Expressive Iteration and turn it into a card and a land next turn most of the time. That sounds fine. Alright, so I'll bash in for 3. Auto attacks for me at this point. Alright, opponent's at 17. And let's grab a Ragavan. I'm not sure if Expressive Iteration or Ponder is better on my previous turn. If the Ragavan connects and I have the extra mana, like, it's definitely Expressive Iteration. And if the Ragavan doesn't connect and I don't have the extra mana, it's a bit closer. Opponent is really going into the tank about something. I am not sure what that something is currently. Okay. So what are we going to see? Are we a Maverick deck that just light on an Elvish Reclaimer? Are we a green-white depth deck? Okay. That's annoying. Now my Ragavan doesn't get through unless my opponent does timing very poorly. Okay, they did not do timing very poorly. Sure. Let's find something to do here. Blue-red. Oh, Wasteland is sick. 1 into my hand. That'll be waste. No. Days to hand? Days to hand. Days to hand. Brainstorm bottom of library. This in exile. Play this. I think it's correct to Wasteland the Karakas over the Savannah. And then next turn I can just, like, dash my Ragavan in and get my value that way. Ooh. This is actually fine for me since I have that 3rd land. Ooh, they are not going to Wasteland. So I will go ahead and try to dash this in. Urza of Plowshare is playing around Days. Guess that is occurring. Let's go land. I will just play out the Soul Guide Lantern. I'll just, like, take this Karakas out of their graveyard so they can't get it back later. I intend on just cashing this in for another card, hoping to find, like, a Murktide Regent or something. Okay. Fuck, why didn't you Wasteland me and let me get sick value? Alright, they're valuing their own mana higher than my mana. I am just going to nuke this immediately, draw a card. Try to find a Murktide Regent! Fucking yes! Okay, cool. Alright. Here's Johnny. And notably, my opponent has used 2 of their Sylvan libraries already. Or not their Sylvan libraries, 2 of their Swords to Plowshares already. So I'm not expecting too many answers to Murktide Regent. Do I have 3 or 4 Volcanic Islands, by the way? This is important information for this game. I'm not Dragonstorm this. I do have all 4 Volcanic Islands. Ooh, opponent willing to take some damage here. Sure. Day is not looking great currently. I mean, that's resolving. I think I am good with casting this now. Because there's the off chance that I could find another Murktide. So, sorcery, artifact, land, enchantment. Unholy Heat is quite good. I'll put the Lightning Bolt in my hand, I guess. The Ragavan on bottom of library. Exile Unholy Heat. An attempt to cast the Unholy Heat and kill this. I'll just do this now. Going in for 7. Alright. That's pretty good. So, notably, just for someone in the comments asks, this is target creature or planeswalker. This can't hit my opponent's face. You are not allowed to do 6 damage for 1 mana under normal circumstances. Life from the Loam, that's Misty, Forest, and Depths. Sure, that's fine. Okay. Sure. 1 away from death to Lightning Bolt. I will daze it. Okay, good stuff. Yep, so we have lethal on board here with the attack. Alright, Submerge is great as an answer to Merit Lodge. Pithing Needle and Wasteland are great. A Braid's not crazy to attack Mox, and I don't know that I'll want to do that. It's something I can go after an early Elvish Reclaimer as well. Might do this. I guess Alpine Moon is fine. I could play a Quarter Cunning, I guess, or like a Narset. But I'm just finding my sideboard, or well, really my main deck slots are very tight. So I'm going to swap out an Urza Saga for a Wasteland just because that's more natural, and then I need 3 or 4 more cuts, and all my cards are good. I guess my opponent like played around Daze like a champ that entire game, and if they're going to do that anyway, and I get that value for Daze, I might as well just take it out of the deck on the draw, and I can consider it again on the play. This seems fine. Opening hand seems solid. I will have some things to think about in terms of like how I play out this hand. Like, do I get a mountain and an island here, and then make it harder for me to cast the Murktide, but keep my mana stable? I think so. I don't think I am on the just like absolutely turbo no matter what Murktide Regent plan here. I have a monkey and a counterspell to go with it. Honestly, I might end up pitching the Murktide depending on how things go. My hand's really good. Like, I will have options. Yeah, I don't want that to resolve. I don't have a lightning bolt right now, and I'm unlikely to be able to remove it next turn. Actually, without extra mana, I think I'm gonna pitch Expressive Iteration. Yeah, that's not true. Maybe my turn 3 play. I'd like turn 2 to be Dragon Rage Channeler plus Ponder. Turn 3 can be Expressive Iteration. Murktide's so big. Huh? Guess I could have technically waited on that land drop. Dryad Arbor. Accept the trade? I think I'll just accept the trade. Like, it's a sinkhole for 1 mana. That's reasonable. I mean, well, okay, maybe it's not reasonable, but like, you know, right? You get it? I have okay, so this will make this big. Unholy Heat. Do I want that? Kind of. But I think I'm gonna bin it anyway. I just want to find a land for Murktide Regent. Yes, these cards are good. I think I take land and ponder. There's a world where I take the second Murktide, but first one seems pretty great. Okay. You can junk my graveyard. Alright, so I know there's a Murktide under here that I don't want. What am I looking for? Another threat that I can play now, or just cantrips that I can string together. Let's brainstorm first. This goes to the graveyard. Holy moly. I'll get rid of a Murktide and a Ponder and just try to go wide of my opponent here. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so I'm on board pretty heavily. I can probably turn both of these on next turn. And I also have a Ragavan that my opponent's going to have to stop instead. Maybe I should have kept that Ponder. Sick. Alright, so I'll send all these in. My opponent will probably stop the Ragavan. Yep. I probably just play this Murktide Regent as a small boy. It's not the most impressive thing in the world, but like my opponent's coming from basically nothing. So I'll just exile the Brainstorm, then pay most of this, and take these lands out of here. Leave creature, because that's the hardest to get back in there. Okay, yeah, my opponent is just good old stuck on mana. Send them. And now I assume the Murktide. Oh no, just valuing that Ragavan hit super highly. Alright, and this is one of the first times that the Urza Saga has been, like, very actively good. Okay. Although if my opponent just wastelands me, they are not actually getting ahead on board. Ooh, wow. They've got to have something they're playing for here. Brainstorm. Oh, Pithing Needle is very good. So if Murktide gets junked, I could have a possible 8 damage this turn. I can just like shut off Maze of Ith here and hit my opponent for a bunch of damage. Oh, this turn got really hard. Card's quite good. I think I'm going to send this to graveyard. Ah, no, I'm not. I'll top that. Okay, so Pithing Needle will remain on top. I'll Brainstorm into it. Yeah, this is great. Play Pithing Needle off of this. This stuff can all stay there. It's quite good. Name a Maze of Ith here. Okay, and my opponent is done with me. And we very easily 4-1'd this league. Overall thoughts on the deck? Good, but I'm not sure that this is actually better than traditional, like normal blue-red Delver. So, starting with the threat suite, I did not miss playing Delver of Secrets in this deck. Just Delver is the worst threat in the deck right now. Some of the versions of this deck are playing 0. Some of them are playing 2. I didn't miss them. The density of my good cards is just absolutely insane here. Although if I'm being honest, I feel like the worst cards in the deck were the Retrofitter Foundry, Soul Guide Lanterns, and Urza Sagas. I get that they add something, but like Urza Saga doesn't tap for blue for Murktide Regent, which is one of the best cards in the deck. It doesn't tap for blue or red for Expressive Iteration, which is also pretty good. And honestly, I probably undervalued Expressive Iteration in this league specifically because of the presence of Urza Saga. So this deck is playing 6 colorless lands, whereas normal Delver just plays the 4 wastelands. And I was subbing a wasteland for an Urza Saga in a lot of these rounds. This is a good deck, obviously. Like, I am not a Delver master by any stretch of the imagination. I'm certainly a Delver novice. Maybe you could call me mediumly proficient with Delver, but that would probably be a stretch. And I didn't know how to sideboard. I was very uncertain about that, and like the strength of the deck was just absolutely amazing. This deck is great, and wouldn't be surprised if we see something from this deck take a hit at some point in the not too distant future. I'm beginning to see all sorts of posts about people like selling their Ragavans either in paper or online, being like, I can't hold them anymore. I think something's going to happen. So we'll see where that's at. As far as the sideboard goes, it just felt fine. Like, the cards that are here are all fine, but some of these cards, like Alpine Moon, for example, probably solves very specific problems that this deck has, but the card kind of feels medium to me at first glance. Yeah, but I don't think I have too much else to say about this. This is a good deck. It's a fun league. Some of the matches took a while, but we had an edge over time. And maybe some of the games that I lost, the losses were my fault, because I certainly did not pilot optimally. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, click the like button. If you're new here, consider subscribing for Legacy, Modern, and Vintage content. And if you want to try this one out or get one of your own decks on the channel, that information is in the video description. Have a great rest of the day. See ya!